We were stuck indoors and forced to look, not just at ourselves, but at our shelves. We ran out of things to do, so dyed our hair, got into skincare, and painted ceilings blue. Thank you for my poetry debut on this semester.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia, for what I think was a wonderful slice of pandemic-era poetry, what it sounded like anyway. Born of the quarantine, the shelves, the selves, the hair, all these kind of things. And thank you, listeners, for tuning back into Solacene, the podcast all about designing the beautiful, sustainable, tactile future. Right now, we're heavy in the midst of our fashion semester. And on today's episode, we're talking about all things hair, all things fast homewares, and all things storage, which I guess often plays into homewares, wardrobes.
It's true.
Narnia.
That's a good little connection we can make.
Yeah.
So thank you all for listening and tuning in every week. We really appreciate it. All of you who are subscribing on YouTube, we have a little counter that we flip over every time one of you subscribe, and it makes us both smile. So thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Your poem actually leads quite well into my first point about hair in the Solacene, which is the idea of the barbershop, the idea of the cultural hub that is the salon. I think those two things are interchangeable, even though I think they have different kind of connotations. Mm-hmm. And also the sometimes scary, sometimes exciting prospect of cutting one's own hair, which, like many others, I did do for the first time during the pandemic and have continued with your help to do so since then, and I don't like the results. It never looks nice, ever.
No.
But I do like the feeling of, at least I'm the one who botched this, rather than paying for the privilege for somebody else to botch this. Maybe it's because I'm a poor communicator or I've just had bad choice in hairdressers, but I can pretty confidently say I've never been to a barbershop or adjacent place and left feeling happy with what they've done. But also it might just say something about my head shape or indeed my face. And
you do have angles on the back of your head.
Right.
As someone who cuts your hair, so maybe that is...
Yeah, you do talk about the corners.
Yeah, the corners.
I feel like her head shouldn't have corners.
They should be round, I'm pretty sure. Like that's, I don't know a lot about anatomy, but I think that's one.
Have you ever cut your own hair?
Just my bangs.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember it was kind of like a rite of passage in my house. I have 3 sisters. Pretty sure that at one point each of them has been caught with scissors cutting their hair, which again sounds like a really unsafe thing. But I think that's just a thing that a lot of kids go through.
Yeah, a lot of kids do that. No one in my family ever did that, fortunately. Because I think it's traumatic.
So maybe we can draw the connection that in the pandemic, that childlike impulse became more normalized or accepted for adults. It's also kind of related here to the topic of intuitive cutting, which, as you don't know, is a really dumb name that I found online, which just refers to like cutting your hair to match the shape of your head, and it's kind of personalized for each person, which just seems to me like a haircut from anybody who knows remotely what they're doing.
Haircut from anywhere outside of the army.
But I think the stuff's usually dry. But for the barber shop, maybe it's different for women. Have you had any pleasant experiences there?
Yeah, I really like the salon. I feel like the salon that I go to, I know everyone there because I've been going there my entire life.
Is it salon, hairdresser, or are those two different?
Same.
Do they do nails or other stuff there?
Yeah, I guess salons probably more often will do nails or do facials, those sorts of things. But a hairdresser obviously just does hair.
You have a good relationship with your hairdresser?
I do. Until pretty recently, I suppose it comes with age and like learning more technical names for things. But until recently, I always hated my haircut.
Do you show a picture?
Yeah, sometimes.
Ooh. I tried to do that last time and the guy just kind of laughed at me. Made me feel really bad about my Pinterest.
He was like, woman.
Yeah, basically, because I gave him the phone because I'd come prepared for once in my life.
Yeah.
And it did that thing where in the passing, the photo, like it moved to a different page.
Yeah.
Just the rest of Pinterest. And he was like, what's this? And I was like, oh, just give me a second. Sweating already. But the barbershop, seriously though, I think in the Solacene, it's a really pleasant space. And I know it's like a big thing. The black barbershop is kind of an existing community hub or haven, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, I'm not the best to speak on that, but I've often thought that just seems like such a pleasant idea. You go there, maybe not even to get your own haircut.
Yeah, just to hang out.
Yeah, or get your beard shaved or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I told you I was reading Farewell to Arms, and in this book, halfway through, the main character has already gone to the salon 4 times probably.
Male or female?
Male, so I guess the barbershop.
Yeah.
And it's just like, obviously we literally cannot even afford that right now, but in the Solacene it will be perhaps more accessible, but also just, more commonly, like, just gonna pop down, maybe trim.
It's one of those, It's one of those things where it's become more kind of democratic, because now, it just costs $30 to buy yourself the equipment, and YouTube is free, and bing, bang, boom, everybody can cut their own hair. But maybe in some senses it's a nice thing to have this one wizard in the town who can just snip everybody's hair like magic, and you go there, and weirdly intimate also. I mean, I think that's kind of a meme, but there is a sense of loyalty you've talked about. You go back to Nova Scotia, like you cross the country to get your hair cut. Like when you put it like that, it's so ridiculous.
It's kind of wild.
But there is this sense of intimacy, essentially among strangers, that's so rare today.
Yeah, it completely lacks, and it's just like the desecration of public spaces in general. The pandemic obviously really accelerated it, but I feel like had the pandemic not happened, it still would have been declining.
Yeah.
Because the hairdressers are one thing, but it's like even no one eats out anymore. Like if they're going to eat out, they'll probably get takeout,
right.
I imagine.
Instead, you'll just find YouTube videos about how to make restaurant quality X.
Exactly. And even I've noticed recently, just the last week or two, a lot of my friends are like, can't afford to go to the coffee shop anymore. So just like not even going to coffee shops, which is just like such a wild thing to me, because that felt like one of the last public spaces that people would go to and use. So in the Solacene, I just think these spaces will be safeguarded, and people obviously financially will be able to afford it, but even just like they'll be more common, I suppose.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't even know where the nearest restaurant is to us, to be honest. Like I think the restaurant that I would like want to go and eat at.
Yeah.
Or barbershop. No
last
idea.
time when I went to a barbershop, after which I've kind of vowed not to do so, the guy was vaping, and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I paying for this?
Yeah, when I cut your hair, I don't vape.
That's true. A Farewell to Arms you mentioned. I'm going to read a quote from a novel called Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which this passage has always weirdly stuck with me. It's from the beginning of chapter 12 for anybody who wants to read along. And it's these Americans who are in France in a restaurant, and they're kind of remarking on the lack of repose, as they call it, that all the men there have. Repose kind of meaning, I guess, a sense of peace or self-assuredness in their appearance. And so the passage says, a well-dressed American had come in with 2 women who swooped and fluttered unself-consciously around a table. Suddenly, he perceived that he was being watched, whereupon his hand rose spasmodically and arranged a phantom bulge in his necktie. In another unseated party, a man endlessly patted his shaven cheek with his palm, and his companion mechanically raised and lowered the stub of a cold cigar. The luckier ones fingered eyeglasses and facial hair, the unequipped stroked blank mouths, or even pulled desperately the lobes of their ears. And it goes on, and I think that anybody watching on YouTube might be saying, but that's you guys. And it really is. Yeah, I'm very unreposed. In fact, right now, I think my hand is in my poorly cut hair.
You think you're unsure.
I'm unsure. I don't know.
Undetermined.
I don't even know what happens back there or up there. But yeah, so this was kind of a Solacene point for me, is that I really like the idea of it being not a burden, because I think whether it's that people have become more anxious or has become more crazy, but it's so normal that men and women, like every 3 seconds, will have to do one of the Bieber flicks or just use their hand to kind of move it out the way. And I feel like,
Didn't used to happen.
I don't know if that's the case, because I didn't used to exist, but I think that currently it's a little bit crazy sometimes.
Yeah, we could bring back hats in the Solacene, perhaps. Because, like, not always. I mean, I like the look of hair quite a lot, but there's probably some instances where we could rely more on hats to keep our hair in place and just, like, not a burden to us. I feel like any part of your wardrobe, appearance, like, things shouldn't be a burden. Like, they should serve you, you shouldn't serve them, sort of thing.
If I just list off some hats and you tell me about whether they're Solacene or not.
Okay.
AKA Soul or not. Baseball caps.
Soul.
Fedoras.
Unsoul.
Cowboy hats.
Unsoul.
The Canadian toque.
Soul.
Visors.
Soul.
Top hats.
Unsoul.
Bike helmets.
Soul.
Yeah. desperately sold. What if we just wore those casually?
You could, yeah, to be safe.
Something to be said for that.
Well, when I got home this morning, I walked in with just like the helmet and like went about making my lunch for a moment, then realized there's a helmet on my head. Should probably take that off.
Maybe they could be kind of like Transformers. They can be more casual.
Yeah.
But along the lines of keeping your hair out of your face, something I really like about the hair industry, which I think you're going to talk about a little bit more, is all the tiny, almost always for women, clips and brushes and bands and like there's so many little colorful bows and ribbons and butterflies and worms and spiders and I don't know if they're usually insect based, but there's these little dots, flowers in the hair. That's something nice.
There's a stylist that I follow on Instagram, and she does videos giving people tips on how to level up their looks, sort of. Yeah. And she often targets it towards women, but recently has done a series towards men, and she's like, guys, get some clips. And I agree with that, honestly.
What are clips?
I think it's cool.
Can you explain the vernacular of these things to me? Because I know about scrunchies.
Scrunchies are elastic.
Yeah, but scrunchies, they're so fun.
They're fun.
They're wide.
So clips
are scrunchies. You can buy them on the website.
Clips are mechanisms that pinch your hair and hold them in place.
Do they pinch your scalp?
No. Okay. They just pinch the hair, and as we've gone over, hair doesn't have feeling.
Right. Sometimes it's making me sound, I don't even know what, like either 3 months old or just an actual, should I say that?
Sent in black, it was just a joke.
Very frequently I'll just squeeze Alicia's hair as hard as I can until my knuckles are white.
Hurt?
And I'm like, that hurts, doesn't it? And she says, no, it doesn't. It's not pulling, I'll just be squeezing it. But it feels like it should hurt.
Yeah, well, it's a part of you.
Yeah, it's a part of you. And that's something else. This makes me sound like an alien, but it just comes out of your scalp. And it, when I draw people, especially women, the hair goes up like crazy spaghetti.
Gravity defying,
but quite often it will drape down instead in real life.
Gravity abiding.
But we're almost like just these sentient flesh-based chia pets.
We are.
And sometimes you have to clip it and cut it. Like, it's such a bizarre thing, but so cool at the same time. Nails.
Yeah.
Like, nails don't have anywhere near the same appeal.
No, but I feel like nails are especially weird. Like, why are they hard?
Yeah, what's with that?
Like, we don't have a shell, but on a tiny part of our body, we have a little shell.
Finger shells.
Yeah.
So you call them tip shells.
Yeah.
What's your favorite haircut? Because I'm often wary, especially in this semester, which can seem so subjective and aesthetic, that the podcast doesn't just turn into us talking about the hair and clothes that we like, and in the utopia, this is how people dress. Like, we try and riff on it in a more general sense, right? And make more wide statements about the industry or the whole art form or the practice or the accessibility or the lifestyle of hair or clothes and their cultural relevance, let's say. But just here, let's kind of geek out, as they say. What's your favorite hair?
Right now, I'm really loving the long, not the long bob, like a short bob. Kind of like if you grew your hair out for another like 5 months.
Yeah.
Like I like close to the head, but not like not shaved sort of thing. I think that looks cool on everybody, and like no one really does it because you either go for like the long hair like me or the short hair like you. That in between is a bit more rare. And I don't mean a mullet, but just like a really short. I think it's cool, easy to maintain.
Right.
And because it's short, it changes quite quickly.
That's cool.
Whereas once you reach a certain length as a woman or a man with long hair, a person with long hair, it just will like kind of look the same.
Yeah.
For years.
I like that you mentioned the changes rather quickly, because hair is kind of like this really practical and obvious medium for what I talked about in a previous episode about upgrades. I said fashion, what's so neat about it in the solo scene is that you'll be able to upgrade it, level it up like a video game character, and hair, it literally will just grow.
Yeah.
If you're lucky. And not only that, but it kind of grows for free.
That's
you don't have
true.
to like pay for an extra 3 inches. You just have to wait.
Yeah, and I feel like there's been like an industry around hair growth.
Yeah.
For people who don't need it, perhaps. It's like, well, you can grow it like 15% faster.
Right.
But it's like, I'm going to talk about this later when we talk about fast homewares, but I feel like everything private has just been commodified. Like, hair growth is private. We don't need an industry surrounding its
They'll find a way.
maintenance or whatever, but it's been,
Subscription
commodified.
model.
Yeah.
or inch or something. But I was just contrasting it with fast fashion and how easy and kind of free it is to adjust your hair when you want to change it and you discard the old stuff, snip it. It's not like it will take forever to decompose or you have to drop it off at a thrift store or something.
Did you know there's an industry making textiles out of human hair?
Yeah, I wish I don't want to know that. Would you buy a shirt out of human hair?
No.
What if it was my hair?
No.
What if I had a tragic sea accident and all you had left was my hair? Would you wear it?
Perhaps. Yeah. Well, in the Victorian era, hair jewelry was a big thing. People would make it for their lovers or just for themselves out of their own hair.
Would
like
you wear
crocheted necklaces?
a bracelet made out of my hair and strung on it were my teeth?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry for any listeners, I suppose.
No.
But what I was kind of also mentioning with your favorite hair, and you had a sneak diss there on the mullets, which I'm guessing you don't like.
I don't really like mullets, no.
They're ugly. And I was kind of getting the point here about how, because hair and fashion is so closely linked to the dating landscape, right? Like so often it's just, I'll dress this way, even if you're taken, I'll dress this way because it appeals to men or women. And I was just kind of chuckling about the fact that I think both men and women really get that frequently wrong in terms of what they think men or women like.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's the point about self-expression and hair, it can be for your own benefit, but also like 8 times out of 10, people are trying to snag young people, let's say.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking about the mullets, right? And it's like, what went wrong?
I don't know. Mullets are one thing that I don't think I'll ever understand.
But I feel like most women don't like them.
It's true.
So where does it come from?
It's just maybe just for the boys.
For the boys, FTB.
Or for the girls, for women who have mullets. Just like, it's interesting. It's edgy.
Edgy.
Because I suppose people used to dye their hair as a sort of edgy thing, but now everyone does it. But the mullet is like an edgy statement.
Yeah, it's this kind of funny balance between the self-expression and the, I won't say people-pleasing, but trying to look maybe a little bit more, not objectively, but by the consensus, attractive on the whole of fashion and hair. And yet what most people find attractive is just what's confident and maybe true to themselves, which might not be what's attractive.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the deep south on a ranch, then maybe the mullet is
Tennis theory.
Going to be attractive. I don't know why. That's where they feel like they fit in, but that's where they kind of their natural habitat.
It's a little bit about androgyny, right? Hair that doesn't look necessarily gendered either way can look really neat.
Yeah, that was my favorite haircut. Is basically just the most androgynous.
Right, because you said on men or women.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were rock climbing and we saw a woman who had shaved head.
Oh my days. There was someone in my yoga class this morning with a shaved head, and I was like, this just suits them so perfectly.
Yeah, intuitive
haircutting. There we go. But some people can rock really anything.
Yeah.
But the mullet.
I need to find something that I can rock on my corners. Corners of my head, that is.
Just picturing a really esoteric, editorial haircut on you now.
Yeah. They look kind of neat, though. Yeah. So-seen hair. Bangs.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal favorite haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking into it a little bit. This has nothing to do with the Celestine. I just thought this could be kind of our the expose on bangs, I guess.
Okay.
Because when else on this podcast are we going to... Never. So bangs were originally... The term comes from a haircut that was just bang off. It's just... That was the word for it.
Okay.
It's just bang off, just cut.
Okay.
Cut off like that. Bangs.
I see.
Except it wasn't on humans. Very originally, it was on horses.
Oh.
It was a way of styling the actual ponytails.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then it kind of pivoted to bangs, or as in the UK they call it fringes. I'm sure other countries have different names for it. In the 1600s, the church cautioned against bangs as a sign of vanity, to quote, a slide into mortal sin.
Sometimes you gotta ask questions about the church.
Yeah.
Especially in the 16th century.
There's also this hairstyle that I found called the Dutch boy bob, which as far as I can tell is basically the coconut head.
Yeah.
It looks so funny to me.
Yeah. I guess bangs, because I suppose women weren't supposed to cut their hair. So it's like that was obviously a very clear, like, I'm cutting my hair even if it's not off the length.
Yeah.
I think bangs are not the most practical thing.
I think bangs are the most human spirit, soul haircut there is. Men, women, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, Audrey Hepburn. I think bangs are today, yesterday, and tomorrow. I think bangs are, it's like the bread of hair. Bangs.
No, but do you think so in the Solacene people will have more bangs?
Yeah, I do think so. Because for some reason I think I don't know if this is actually true. I feel like there's a bit of a connotation that bangs have. I feel like they have a bit of a reputation.
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, it was just like standard, you reach a certain age and you grow your bangs out.
Yeah.
And people used to make fun of you for like getting bangs, but they're coming back into
grow them out.
But like right now they're growing out.
Oh, they become normal then?
Yeah.
Oh.
But there's kind of this in-between awkwardness where like you can't wear them over your eyes because it'll cover them.
Of course.
You have to wear them like curtain bangs. And yeah, I think bangs are cool, easy. You can cut them yourself. And we don't like the tiny bangs though.
Well, I don't want to
same,
make any political statements.
They're in the same category as
the mullets?
Mullets, I think. Both kind of just trying to make a statement. Very political haircuts.
I was curious about hairstyles that kind of sweep the nation, become a massive trend almost out of nowhere. The Rachel. Do you think in the Solacene we will have these kind of celebrity influenced, or is this is just the nature of aesthetic trends? Of course, we'll go from one thing to the next. So do you think that's how it will go?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think it's ever going to reach a point where we just have an ideal, like there's like a platonic ideal of hair, body, everything. Like it's always going to twist and turn. Just depends on.
I was just kind of thinking that perhaps with TikTok and the internet, almost to a degree, making everything okay, making everything fashionable, that maybe this is not always such a bad thing. People talk about culture maybe having stagnated, which I do kind of agree with. But also, I feel like there aren't many haircuts today that people would wear that would be outright unfashionable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning about the trends and hair especially, like obviously that's what we were talking about today. But I think on a wide scale, it's just like everything goes. But as someone who comes in and out of hobbies, different groups of people, you notice slight shifts in like
of course
the concentration because like as I already said, I was in like I've started doing hot yoga recently, and I noticed this morning I was so irritated by my hair during the class that I look around like I'm like the only person with long hair here. And so like maybe that's why like you start doing this kind of hobby, and obviously your hair has to be shorter because it will be uncomfortable if you have long hair. And then I remember in ballet when I used to do that like full time, there was one girl who had a very short haircut, so couldn't put her hair in a bun, and was like an outlier. It's like you can't really have that because you need to have it in a bun. That's just like what we do here, sort of thing. And it's like at large, none of these people are going to stand out on the street as like, oh, they have like a yoga haircut or a ballet haircut, but
when they're all together,
yeah, they kind of congregate. And I feel like that will always be the case, but maybe more so on like a macro scale as hobbies come into vogue and go out of vogue, it'll change a bit. Like maybe rock climbing is coming into vogue, so people will start to dress and act and cut their hair more in that style. And I feel like that's kind of how it's going to be impacted in the Solacene, a bit less so with celebrities.
A bit less celebrity, kind of top down, a bit more ground up about rock climbing's neat. I'm going to get me one of those rock climbing cuts, whatever that is. Yeah, that is kind of a cool idea. I guess probably the clearest example that I have of the top-down haircuts beside the Rachel, which is kind of maybe you had to be there for that anyway, is the powdered wigs. Because I've always been really curious about that. Why were they powdered? Why were they wig? Like, why? In general, in the 17th century, I think is what it was. And I learned that these powdered wigs came about because there were two kings of this time who were just losing their hair.
Yeah.
And it was either because of like early hair loss or syphilis or something like this. So the wigs came out, and the powder is basically just to keep away lice, keep them clean, or sensibly cleaner anyway.
Whenever I hear powdered wig, I just picture like an immense level of like grime, mainly because of the lice, but
also George Washington.
Yeah.
He had red hair. He just powdered it white.
What?
Yeah.
So weird.
Exposés on the sewer scene. Can I just mention one more haircut?
Yeah.
Or hairstyle, should I say? It's called the tuck.
Oh, no, not
Maybe
the
you
tuck.
can explain this one to the listeners.
So you know when you put on a sweater
Yeah.
and you have long hair, your hair just stays underneath unless you pull it out? That's the tuck. Is when
Right.
it's tucked into the sweater. Aaron seems to really like that look, but I know anyone with long hair will agree with me. It's very uncomfortable.
But it looks comfortable. It looks warm.
It's so
Like
itchy.
if I had long hair and it was winter and I put on a jumper and it just stayed below, I wouldn't be so quick to scoop it out like you are. Just leave it in there at least for a few minutes.
I've tried.
I like the way the hair kind of smoothly fits. Like it just looks like it goes nowhere.
Yeah. I've seen people do the tuck stylistically, like on
Really?
runways and stuff. Yeah. So it's not as, well, it's pretty underground. The
Okay.
tuck's pretty underground, but
I'm a little bit ahead of the curve.
yeah.
Slightly ahead of the curve.
I could see it becoming comfortable if you had really, really soft hair.
Do you think that's what they call it?
Yeah.
Pillow tuck, maybe. Something like that.
Yeah, so if anyone's looking for any like inspiration of how to look more futuristic, just
Oh, I got tons of ideas.
tuck or call Aaron, yeah.
Yeah.
Powdered wigs, yay or nay? They,
Oh, that's a nay.
the nay.
I
okay,
was just
good.
always curious whenever I watch Pirates of the Caribbean.
What's going on there, yeah. Yeah, I think wigs are just like uncomfortable generally, like if you have hair. But I understand them for people who want more hair or different hair. Like it has a place and it's cool and like a pretty, I feel like it's not a completely immoral industry, so
Yeah.
no harm.
I think the other thing with hair in the solar scene is that obviously humans age and will continue to do so in the solar scene. And hair is one of those things that changes or worsens as you age.
I was going to talk about this, and
It grays, it falls out, it recedes if you're a man. And how do you think perhaps our attitude or behaviors toward this in the solar scene differ from today?
I think aging is very beautiful. I know it's very like cliche, but I just think it's super recent, the objectification of like youthfulness. Like obviously youthfulness has always been a beauty standard, but I also just think it's not that long ago that like men who looked aged and rugged were like the ideal.
Yeah, I've always found it weird rewatching Seinfeld when George Costanza is made fun of obviously for being overweight, poor, kind of an idiot, and bald. It's
Yeah.
like the bald isn't like
Yeah.
yeah, it's not really in his control.
Yeah.
I think.
So I just think that's something that hopefully is already shifting. I've seen within my lifetime just like women with gray hair owning it a bit more.
Yeah.
And I've always found gray, silver, white hair like beautiful and like desirable.
Didn't you
was
say
a
you were
point
gonna dye your hair grey?
I really wanted to, but then someone, probably you, said to me, it's gonna go gray. Like,
Yeah.
just wait kind of thing. I'm like, that's true. But
It's the same reason I never really want to get a buzz cut. So well, it'll come to you anyway.
Yeah, but I just think it's cool, and I think in the soul scene it will continue to evolve. Same with skin texture and stuff. It's like 100% out of your control, and like people will try and sell to you alternatives. That's just a waste of money and time. It's like maybe you can make your skin 1% less wrinkly or your hair 1% less gray, but like I feel like owning it is cool, and perhaps if you own it and stress about it less, the change will come later.
Yeah, one
knows?
thing that I do think with hair though, I texted you this a couple of weeks ago, that it's maybe I was being melodramatic in the text as usual. I said something like, it's a tragedy that most people never find their hairstyle. One that they really like, that shapes their face well. And I kind of stand by that. I do think it's a sad thing, and I do think most people never kind of maximize it. Maybe this is incredibly kind of superficial thing for me to say. What do you think?
No, I think it's we don't have enough opportunities. As I was saying, because haircuts are so expensive, people get them once every 2 years now.
Yeah.
Because like, you can't really experiment with it.
I also think the internet, it seemingly puts the information in your own hands, but really it gives you standardized versions of everything. So for instance, it's like, well, I know I'm an autumn. There's the color scheming thing, because the internet showed me this infographic. But it's like, if you actually went to someone who knew what they were doing, the wizard who cuts the town's hair, maybe he would, through intuitive haircutting, be able to just assess your head in real time
Yeah, the woman who did my hair for our wedding, I remember asking her, what do you think would look best on me? Just like, do what you think would look best. And she said, no, I don't like making those kinds of decisions. I'm like,
That's your job.
it's literally your job. Like, you trained for this.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that almost every time that I've been there. Only recently I showed a picture.
Yeah.
It never works, but it's always wrong in a different way, which I guess is interesting.
It's true.
And an unpredictable way.
Totally. Do you want to take a guess on to how many skincare products and makeup products a person uses every day? A woman, usually.
Average woman?
Yeah.
3,000. No.
One person.
Oh, 3.
12 to 16.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like,
toothpaste?
maybe. I mean, it's a range, so you could maybe 16 includes
Yeah.
toothpaste. But that was surprising to me in a way. But then I counted and I'm like, if you're doing your makeup, yeah, there's your eye makeup, cheeks, lips, kind of checks out. But in the soul scene, I think we'll use 3. You can mix it, maybe it's a moisturizer, maybe it's a mascara. Just like, I just think natural skin is quite beautiful. And like, I understand wearing makeup and doing your hair for confidence, but I feel like the confidence wouldn't be necessary if people weren't judging you for having bare skin. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, no, I think it's a feedback loop where I think the more women see other women wearing makeup, the more they feel the pressure to wear makeup to fit in, and so it kind of keeps going. And it's not just women and makeup, but men do the same things as well: money, shoes, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, and I think makeup's cool. Shouldn't it, like, it's fun sometimes, and it's just like, I think anyone should use it. I feel like it shouldn't be as gendered, because it's like, maybe it's your wedding day and you have a spot in a man and you want to cover it. Like, that should just be like, that's fine. You're getting a lot of pictures taken on the day. This isn't normal for you. Like, I just think makeup should be a bit, what's the word for it? There's not really a word. I'll try and explain this concept of like a bit more the way like skincare is. It's a bit more in that category of like, it's good for you, whereas a lot of makeup that we wear now is just actively bad for you. Like, it actively clogs your pores and makes you look like,
and it's kind of in cahoots with the skincare.
Exactly.
Like the dentist who gives you the chocolate afterwards. What about tanning? Doesn't that kill you?
Yeah.
I don't want to give any medical opinions on this podcast.
Well, it's just like UV rays feed the skin cells.
I've always thought that pasty skin looks fine. I don't really get the kind of, pasty. It's like, that's the skin color.
Yeah. Like, I just think there's a lot of things that are a feedback loop in this industry, and we need to just like...
You're pasty.
Yeah. But I just kind of own it. Because I can't be bothered to tan or wear makeup or bronzer or anything like that. But trying to, if you have the confidence, the kind of delusional confidence to just like go out in the world, bare skin, bare hair.
But it goes back to the repose.
Yeah.
You know, like, obviously we're doing this whole semester about clothes and hair and things like this. But fundamentally, if you're all kind of happy with yourself, then it won't really matter if your hair is like a little bit spriggy.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to talk a bit about how hair and makeup can be an alternative to clothing in a sort of way of like, I really find it cool how women used to do their hair before we had all of the tools that we have now, like all the heat and stuff.
You mean crazily?
Yeah, in a crazy way, flowers in the hair. You were saying, I guess, with the accessories, and I think tiny things like this are really cool ways to express yourself in a less unsustainable way, as like buying a new dress every time you go. Maybe you just buy a new hair clip, where you just like try a new eye color or whatever.
Yeah, there was a style icon in my grade school who everybody just used to roast. But I say style icon semi-ironically, but now I really think it, because she would always put like pencils in her hair and stuff. But now I think that's kind of subtle.
It's like, just like express yourself.
Like whatever you scavenge in the street, just put it in your hair for later.
Yeah.
Hot dogs.
Could say that. So Aristotle, know him?
Yes.
He made a suggestion on how to limit acquisitiveness. That meaning like the acquisition of stuff. And he suggested that men should strive for virtue and pursue goods of the body and the soul. And I think that's really interesting and a good Solacene recommendation of like striving for goods of the body and the soul instead of goods of the closet.
Yeah, kind of like that Rick Owens quote that I said a few weeks ago on here about working out is the modern couture.
Yeah, and it's like, it can be working out, it could be maybe painting your nails blue. Just like doing fun little things to express yourself that aren't so macro as filling your wardrobe with a lot of things. And in the Solacene, it kind of goes without saying, all of these things will not be made out of acetane. They'll be made of, like, beets, most likely. That's just kind of obvious when we talk about the Solacene, I think.
What's the name for those really big hair clips I was saying with me?
Claw clips.
Claw clips.
Yeah.
I always put those on my hand and wrist.
You do. It's true. Do they hurt?
I leave them on there until they do.
Okay. It's a kind of, like, character building exercise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Aristotle would probably learn something from me, actually. But he doesn't know much about claw clips.
I don't think he does. Do you want to know what the garment of the week is?
It's nothing to do with hair?
It's not.
Nothing made out of human hair?
No.
Tell me.
It's the apron.
Ooh.
So, apron, this is the transition into the homewares section, comes from napperon, which is a tablecloth from the 14th century designed to protect the other tablecloth. Which I just find so funny and so 14th century. It's like, our brains just couldn't figure this. The napperon was like to protect the other tablecloth. And then that word evolved into the word apron in the 17th century. However, aprons as a tool, like as a something you wear on top of your clothes, have been around, proven since the 1300s. And that's just proven in paintings. I'm sure they existed in some form or another before then.
Yeah.
What shocked me was that aprons were in fact originally just the half aprons that cover your lower half. So you tie it around your waist and then it covers like your pants or your skirt.
Why?
I don't know. It was just like, I feel like when you think about like inventions, some things feel like they should probably have been invented sooner. It's one of them. And it wasn't until the 1700s that they added a pinafore. And the reason it's called a pinafore is because they would pin like the upper piece of fabric to their dresses. And then it wasn't until the 1800s that they thought, instead of pinning it to ourselves, let's put a tie around our neck. And that brings us to the apron that I have as an example. And it wasn't also until the 1800s that they started being pretty. Like until then they were just very simple and white and basic. Maybe you can hold it up? I don't know.
I'll explain it. This is a dusty pink apron with white lace detailing.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And it's a cross back one. So this is the most full coverage apron. It's a bit more close to a dress. So a lot of aprons don't cross in the back. They keep the back fully exposed because like often you're not going to get anything in your back. But this is better for if you're painting or doing something that you need to wipe your hands so you don't wipe on the backs of your pants or your dress.
When's the last time you wore it?
I wore an apron yesterday, I think.
Doing what?
Baking. Yeah.
What were you baking?
I made marshmallow cookies.
Yeah, exposing on the palm. Not just marshmallow tapioca.
Not tapioca.
Marshmallow tahini.
Yeah. So healthy. And then they kind of died out in the 1980s because, you know, people weren't like doing those types of things.
Maybe it's something to do with microwave dinners.
Yeah, like people weren't cooking the way that they used to, but then apparently the bloggers revived them. The
bloggers.
Yeah.
The trad wives.
Yeah. And I can agree to that. And a word on smocks. So smocks are the full coverage, like sleeves, what you kind of wear when you were like a kid painting in school. Those are smocks.
Yeah.
Because then it keeps you completely protected. And I think smocks are great, especially in schools.
You should make a Solacene smock.
Yeah, I thought about that. Maybe I'll jump on that. Let me know in the comments or email us if you would be interested in a Solacene smock. Because I'll get on that.
That'd be neat.
Yeah.
You could call it the kindergarten smock or something.
Yeah. And one more thing is that I think it's cool how these span professions, like obviously we're talking about cooking and like chefs wear them, like the ones that go over their heads and on the backs. But blacksmiths wear them, painters obviously wear them, doctors wear smocks. Like there's a lot of different industries that wear them, and I think it's cool and very Solacene to have a piece of clothing that's a bit more rough and tumble, and you can just like wear it on top of your clothes, keep your clothes in better shape, have to wash them less.
Yeah.
And that's just something we should probably strive for in general. I think we're going to talk a little bit about clothing maintenance later, but just like, you don't need to wash your clothes every day.
No, I think it's key. I think it's key to have something like this. I
Yeah.
haven't owned an apron in many years, since I was a kid and I was going through my MasterChef phase, but I have almost always had a junk sweater that I will put on when cooking, especially cooking something that will spit back at me or that has flour involved or something like that, or painting, let's say. And actually, I recently got rid of my junk sweater and have really felt that absence. So kind of my only option now when I'm doing something like that is just to strip clothes, just to be naked.
Yeah,
Which
put
obviously-
your skin on the line.
Yeah, it comes with its own problems.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so homewares. We have a home.
Correct.
Lots of people listening probably have a space that they decorate and care for.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to start with Hegel, the German philosopher. And he was a contemporary of Marx, and they had a lot of similar and contrasting ideas. So Hegel said that human needs transcend that of animals as they can multiply and refine those needs. So you know what I mean by that? It's like animals just like have needs. But humans, the way our brains work, can like mutate them.
Yeah, mutate them, compartmentalize, expand them, explore them, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And because of the state of the modern economy, everything private, such as dress and fashion, have become something social. Like I said this earlier, but it's just like our needs are developing and developing and developing because like all of our needs are being met to an extent. Like a lot of people's needs, like we don't have the need for food and housing, so then we're just kind of inventing things. But because we're inventing them and the way the economy is, it all becomes shared.
It's like a poem. Love it.
Yeah, a little bit like the poem. And I wanted to start with this just to say, like, how interdependent the economy is. And in the arts and crafts movement, which we talked about last week,
Yeah.
it was like that was a sort of desire from the people to make their items beautiful again. But now when we have the desire for making items beautiful, we don't do it ourselves. We go to IKEA because it's cheaper, going to probably conceptually be easier and better made than what we could do ourselves because we lack all the skills.
Yeah.
Because despite the efforts of the arts and crafts movement, these skills were not maintained. Like these artisanal craftsman skills were not.
Yeah. I don't want to get too critical, but I think that it's not even just the physical skills of table making or table painting that we kind of lack today. It feels a little bit paradoxical because we live in such a Pinteresty hashtag aesthetic time, but almost like our aesthetic sensibilities have also been a little bit weakened or simplified to the point that I think too is the appeal of IKEA. They can sell us a whole matching kitchen. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to try and work on color coordination ourselves.
Yeah, that's
IKEA
a big
kind
part
of
of
does
it.
it. Like I remember when we were watching, I don't know why I keep referencing this on the pod, Emma Chamberlain's house tour. And she said, yeah, you know, it was a really different experience decorating this house. I kind of just looked at things and said, if I like it, I'll guess it. And I was like, but that's just normal.
Yeah.
Similar to the intuitive haircutting. It's like, that's humans' relationship to things. Like that's
For
how it
sure.
is.
So a lot of the people I heard talking about this phenomenon of like fast homewares mentioned IKEA and how you can just go in and just buy a room. Like you can buy everything in this showroom for under $1,000 and that's yours.
Uh-huh.
Like that's just your new kitchen, and that's so absurd to me. And
Why?
it just makes, because it's just like it has no soul.
Why?
I think you had no actual input into it. I think that's what the human experience is your sometimes stupid, sometimes poor choice making into it.
Kind of like the microwave dinner of room design. Like we were often mentioning this in our previous apartment, that despite how meticulously we'd waited and chosen for almost all our furniture, we had ended up with everything just a slightly different shade of brown.
Yeah.
And it didn't really complement.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of our own doing, right?
Yeah.
Like it was our own, it was like the meal that wasn't seasoned that well, but you made it all from scratch. There's something to that.
Yeah.
Maybe I sound a little bit too like patting ourselves on the back here.
No, I think it's still better for the soul.
Because we also did buy some things from IKEA. Let's talk about those.
Okay.
The stools.
Yeah, that's a good segue into this. So we bought stools, just like bar stools from IKEA, because we were like, gonna wait and try and find them secondhand. We couldn't find any. We were like,
We need these.
and one thing is, for $100, how bad can it be? It's not like it's $15, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, the thing with IKEA is, it's like, I feel like the way they price stuff is to make you think it's going to be sufficient quality, yet it's just sheen quality.
Yeah, sure.
And so
They fell apart. Let's just
they
skip to the end.
they're just in pieces basically. My friend has them, and I was over at her house, and someone said to her, "These stools are kind of falling apart," and she just looks at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
But we should say from IKEA, we were missing a piece once for one of there's a bedside table.
Yeah.
Would you buy anything from IKEA now, furniture-wise?
No.
No, I guess because we've had the experience, and as you say, there's the $100. How bad could it be? Pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
In terms of quality, but that's beside the point. So we bought one of these bedside tables. It was missing one of the big wooden pieces. I asked for it in the mail, like through their official requesting. They sent us back just a whole other bedside table.
Yeah.
So now we kind of have two, but one of them is like triangular. It's like we just nailed it together.
Yeah.
But it works.
It works. Does the trick. And that's the joy of IKEA. You can get 2 tables for the price of 1.
Yeah. And it might last the length of one well-made table.
Exactly. So the fast homewares emerged in 2021, sort of, just like as a response to people in the pandemic because everyone was at home. Obviously, IKEA has been around for decades, but just like Zara, Shein, H&M, Simons all developed like a houseware brand, which is made in the same places that the fast fashion, so I won't go into that. It's just like, it's a very new kind of industry. And I'm going to talk a bit about the social phenomenon and kind of like how it can mutate in the Solacene instead of dwelling on the working conditions. So Guy Debord said, in societies where modern conditions of production prevail, life is presented as an immense accumulation of spectacles. And he defines a spectacle as a collection of images. It is a social relation between people that is mediated by images. And I feel like you would really like that concept of society at the moment because it feels very true that our interpersonal relationships are mediated by images, and it's just a series of these spectacles and discrete images, because it's like, obviously an IKEA room looks great, looks expensive, looks put together. If your parents came over to a new apartment and it looks like an IKEA showroom, it's kind of a shortcut to say they're doing well.
Yeah.
But then they don't have to actually sit in the stools that fall apart, and they don't have to like open the cupboard door that just falls off. Sort of.
Sure.
A lot of gripes against IKEA.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But we do also have a really nice bookshelf from IKEA.
It's true.
That had to lug really far. But we think it was made pre-Harambe in 2016 when things went wrong. Old heads will know.
Yeah. We're getting really conspiratorial here.
PH. Well, yeah, we're developing the whole like Solacene mythos and timeline.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the pandemic, because we were in our homes, there was like a new need for creative freedom. In a way that we used to express ourselves in clothes, it was like, no one's gonna see me.
Yeah.
But my house, like, people kind of turned their eyes towards the house a bit more.
I mean, this sounds zany, but I feel like Animal Crossing was not an insignificant part of this either.
No, that's really true.
Because Animal Crossing is just a whole game where it's like, buy things. And this little 5x5 grid that is your house, which you can expand when you pay Tom Nook more. You know, your house gets bigger, you can get a second floor, all these kind of things. And there's matching sets. You can just arrange them and have a radio and a rug and all this stuff. And I mean, this sounds absurdly indoor kid, but I feel like it happened a little bit to a generation or so. And people played this and were like, wait a second, I can kind of do that in my house. And it's like this mind-blowing moment or something like that.
Yeah, and I think because we can own a lot without being super wealthy now, that's also like a very new thing. It's like you used to have to be wealthy in order to have like a kitschy little lamp. But now it's like you can get a kitschy little lamp for $2 off of IKEA. Why not? Sort of thing. People probably used to think like, well, if I'm going to buy a new table, it's going to be like an investment, right?
Yeah.
Like the table that we have, we got secondhand for super cheap, but originally it was like $4,000 or something. Like when I look it up on the internet, it's just like, if you went to a store and a table was priced like that now, you'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Like I can go to IKEA and get one for $15. I keep using that price because I feel like everything at IKEA is $15.
I think everything, I feel like you haven't been on the website in a while.
Yeah,
I feel like
probably.
it's more 85.
Yeah. But yeah, it's also just like when you buy things cheaply, you don't have to commit to them. Because like it is so cheap, you can just kind of roll with it. So I think in the soul scene, obviously, this is coming off of the back of the arts and crafts artisanal revival that we talked about last week. It's just like things will be made to last, to be repaired is very important, to be updatable. So like you can repaint, reupholster, whereas things now, like when it's chipboard, you can't repaint it, you can't fix it. Like floorings, like we have vinyl flooring, you can't fix it. Like if you went to the store to buy a piece, it wouldn't fit in. But if you have hardwood floors, they all kind of fit together, and you can always, like, wood is literally grows on trees, so there'll always be the same wood, right?
Yeah.
Like to repair it, but there's not always going to be this sticker pattern that they have on this vinyl floor or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the soul scene, things made, to be updatable, repairable, and just like maybe sometimes it's going to take more work to assemble it, to install it, but it'll be made to last. Whereas now everything is so quick because it's like there's 2 days in between when the tenant is moving into this apartment and the next one's leaving, sort of thing. We have to make this repair really quickly. But in the soul scene, it's like landlords and homeowners will be thinking about these kind of intergenerational like investments. Things won't be so fleeting. And apartment rentals especially, things are so fleeting. Even people who own the building now might not own it in 10 years because that's how it changes over. But we used to think about like, this is my house. I'm going to give it to my kids. They're going to give it to their kids. So I'm going to install the nice light fixture instead of the cage. We have a cage light fixture in our apartment that's probably just from the dollar store. And it's like...
weirdly medieval torture room call.
Yeah.
So I call it the cage, but it does give something of a lit disco ball effect.
Yeah,
maybe that's what
true.
they're going for.
Yeah, maybe. It's just like, just a bit more broad thinking when we think of these homewares.
I have some notes on storage of clothes. Maybe they can be presented a little bit more as a lightning round, though, just to close the episode.
Okay.
I'll just say them, I guess, and you just nod. No, you can. So I was thinking, while you're showering in the bathroom, I've always thought there's nowhere to put my clothes.
That's a really good point.
We've never had massive bathrooms, to be fair.
True.
But I think even in the big bathrooms, this kind of goes amiss, having a little nook for your clothes.
Even because, like, at the gym, I just have to, like, sling them over the door.
Well, even in a hotel or something. I'm sure maybe 5-star hotels. But I don't think they have a dedicated nook.
Okay, I
we have
really
a
like
closet,
that idea.
But a nook for your clothes.
No, so you can reach from the shower, maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. 10 out of 10 approve that idea.
Nice little nook idea, right?
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk about feng shui for clothes storage, but quickly realized it was going to take me more than 4 days to learn enough about feng shui to not sound like a fool on the podcast. So I guess I'll just say my feng shui ideals. Try not to annoy yourself with clothes, because I think often we just pile things. We call them affectionately, sometimes not affectionately, mounds. Mounds of clothes. Alicia, when are you going to clean up your mound?
Well, the mound is often the intermediate between laundry basket and closet. Because it's like, I've worn it once, but I don't want to hang it up with the clean clothes, but it doesn't deserve...
I mean, sometimes, like, if I have a Monday to Friday of late work days or something, then the mound is just 5 days worth of clothes, because I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I think in general, try and plan ahead. Like, we have a very small studio, but we try to do our best not to annoy ourselves with clothes. We don't always succeed in this.
Yeah.
Because very often I'll get annoyed. Because my socks are just in a tub in the dark. And I'm just rummaging. But, try not to annoy yourself. And the other thing is, maybe try to make it smell nice. I feel like that's a feng shui idea as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you spritz that little lavender stuff.
I do.
On bed sheets. I feel like clothes has an opportunity to be just this pleasant, Tide commercial, like embracing the, for people who aren't watching, I'm hugging myself here.
Yeah, like anti-mothballs.
Anti-mothballs.
So, like, little packets of lavender maybe you put in your drawers.
Houseplants.
Yeah.
Maybe they're purifying the air in some way. Also, I was thinking about hooks.
Yeah.
I love hooks. I think
great.
hooks are really neat. I have this kind of holy grail that I want, which is a blue giraffe hook. It's a series of hooks in the shape outline of a giraffe. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
I think it's also IKEA. I think it's kind of old IKEA. That I just think would be so fun.
Yeah.
So hooks, I think I need. The obsession with like closing closet doors. I feel like this may be cleaning out the closet, skeletons in his closet. Closets have this rhetorical place of, you don't want to go in there. It's almost like a bathroom. It's a secret thing. Why would you want to go in the closet? It's like, well, maybe it could be a pleasant thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about wardrobes?
I think wardrobes are great. I like any kind of fancy pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
And wardrobes are one of those. My dad had a wardrobe, and I always was like, an armoire. They have different names, don't
Yeah.
they?
I had a kind of muddled opinion on this. On the one hand, Narnia. Right? It's kind of like this place of deep wonder. If we had one, you know I'd be hiding in it frequently.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it does take up space.
Yeah.
Compared to a closet. So I guess it's like, if you have the space, wardrobe. Also, it has a vaguely British connotation to me. I don't know why. My wardrobe. In fact, you don't hear Americans often talking about
That's
that.
really true. Maybe it's just the design of British houses. Or there's less closets, right?
They do. I was thinking about if you were painting a still life, maybe clothes could be used instead of fruit.
Ooh.
Also, I was thinking about how much I love the clothes that zip up into themselves. Did you ever have one of those? A jacket that just becomes a pouch?
Yeah, I've had those. I loved them.
It's wonderful, right? It's Transformers. Or the pants that maybe zip off into shorts. I don't think those are cool these days, but
I have a pair.
yeah.
Maybe I'll wear them next week.
Maybe you should.
Yeah. Next week we should talk about maintenance of clothes, because we kind of skirted around it, I think, a few times. Just talking about like how, like specifics, how to take care of them.
Yeah, I think the ancient Chinese invented irons. I think they used to use pans full of hot coals.
Yeah.
Also, I have here just written down dreaming of a better shoe rack. So I'll leave that to the listener's imagination for a week maybe,
Okay.
and it will just haunt their dreams. Because shoe racks suck,
They do.
but they could be cool. Maybe. And I have written sort by new versus sort by color. I think that kind of sums us up, you and I. I always sort by new in the closet. Whatever's newest, I put it furthest to the right.
Cleanest.
Yeah, cleanest. But I mean, no, whatever I last wore,
Yeah.
I will put furthest to the right.
Okay.
And so the thing that needs to be worn is on the far left. So I have this intuitive, very easy visual of to kind of balance things out.
That makes sense.
But you don't do that. You have color coding kind of.
Yeah, I color code them, or I'll sometimes code them by dresses, tops, bottoms. Oprah actually coined that new to old thing, so
Oprah?
you and Oprah are on the same wavelength.
Well, you don't need to tell me that.
Okay, thank you all for listening. We will see you next week for our clothes care episode, and we look forward to that.